You think this is a game, Victoria? Look me in the eye and say that again. I screamed, my voice cutting through the expensive silence of the penthouse like a jagged blade. I don't need to look at a thief, Victoria snapped, her face twisted in a mask of cold elitism. She tossed a printed bank statement onto the marble coffee table. The transaction is right there. $18,400, transferred from Brianna's savings to an offshore account using your IP address. It's over, Morgan. I let out a harsh, mocking laugh, stepping closer until I was inches from her face. I didn't flinch. My IP address? You mean the Wi-Fi that Brianna has the password to? The Wi-Fi she uses every night to stalk her ex-boyfriends? Are you really that blinded by her crocodile tears? Or are you just looking for an excuse to get rid of me? How dare you! Brianna wailed from the sofa, clutching a silk pillow to her chest. Mom, she's attacking me! She's just mad because she got caught! She's always hated that Grandpa left me that money! I spun around, my eyes locking onto my younger sister. Shut your mouth, Brianna. We both know you bought that limited edition designer haul yesterday. Where'd the money come from? Did it fall from the sky, or did you just decide to ruin my life to fund your closet? That's enough! Victoria roared. Before I could react, her hand flew across the space between us. Slap! The sound was deafening. My head snapped to the side, my skin stinging with a heat that rivaled the Chicago frost outside. I slowly turned my face back to her. I didn't cry. I didn't pout. I grinned, a dark, dangerous smile that made Victoria take a half step back. Is that all you've got? I hissed, my voice low and lethal. Because that slap just cost you the last shred of respect I had for you as a mother. Get out, Victoria whispered, her voice trembling with rage. I want you out of my sight, out of this house, now. With what? It's minus 10 degrees out there, I challenged, crossing my arms. You're going to throw your eldest daughter into a blizzard over a lie told by a 15-year-old sociopath? You aren't my daughter, Victoria sneered. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin like talons. You're a liability. Brianna is the future of this family's reputation. You're just a reminder of everything I hate about your father. She hauled me toward the entrance. I fought back, gripping the doorframe. You'll regret this, Victoria. I promise you, by the time the sun comes up, you'll be the one begging for mercy. Good luck with that, Brianna called out, her voice suddenly dropping the fake sob. She leaned back on the sofa, a wicked smirk playing on her lips. Enjoy the frostbite, sis. Maybe it'll cool down that temper of yours. Victoria gave me one final, violent shove. I tumbled backward, my boots slipping on the icy stone of the porch. The massive oak door slammed shut. Thud! The sound of the deadbolt engaging was like a gavel hitting a desk. Sentenced. I stood up, brushing the snow off my jeans, my breath hitching in the freezing air. I didn't bang on the door. That was for losers. I turned and looked at the security camera mounted above the porch. I knew Victoria was watching the feed from her iPad. I stepped right up to the lens and held up my middle finger, my eyes burning with a cold, focused hatred. Watch closely, I mouthed. I fumbled for my phone. 8% battery. The screen was shattered, a map of my broken life. I didn't call a friend. I didn't call a shelter. I dialed the one man who had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. Dad, I said the moment he picked up. The trap is set. She just threw me out. Physical assault, illegal eviction, and the trust theft. She fell for it. All of it. Are you safe, Morgan? Arthur's voice was like steel. Did she hit you? She slapped me. It's on the porch camera. I said, a grim sense of triumph bubbling up through my anger. I'm freezing, Dad, but I've never felt better. I want them destroyed, not just sued. I want them in the street. I'm 3 blocks away, my father replied, the roar of his SUV's engine audible over the wind. I'm coming in hot. I have the trust documents and the sheriff on the other line. Morgan, stay in view of the camera. Let the world see exactly what kind of monster Victoria is. I'm not going anywhere, I said, looking up at the penthouse window. Brianna was there, staring down, her face pale as she saw me calmly talking on the phone instead of crying. I'm the storm they didn't see coming. The phone died. The screen went black. I leaned against the frozen pillar, the wind howling around me like a pack of wolves. I wasn't shivering from the cold anymore. I was shivering with the pure, exhilarating anticipation of the carnage that was about to unfold. 10 minutes. That's all it would take for the walls of Victoria's perfect world to start crumbling. And I was going to enjoy every single second of the collapse. The Chicago wind was a beast, clawing at my throat, but the fire in my veins was hotter. I watched the clock on the gate's digital keypad. 7 minutes. 7 minutes since Victoria had treated me like trash to be discarded. Suddenly, the blinding glare of high beams cut through the swirling snow. A black SUV didn't just pull up. It roared toward the estate like a heat-seeking missile. It didn't slow down for the reinforced iron gates. The screech of twisting metal screamed louder than the storm. My father's heavy brush guard slammed into the gates, snapping the electronic lock like a toothpick. He plowed through, his tires shredding the manicured frozen lawn, Victoria's pride and joy, leaving deep, ugly scars in the white snow. He didn't stop until the bumper was inches from the front porch steps, nearly pinning me against the door. Arthur stepped out before the engine even died. He wasn't wearing a coat. He looked like a god of vengeance in a tailored suit, his eyes fixed on the security camera. Morgan, he barked, grabbing a heavy wool trench coat from the back seat and throwing it around my shoulders. Did she touch you? Right here, I said, pointing to the red welt on my cheek, my voice steady and cold. And she did it right in front of the foyer camera. She thinks she's untouchable, Dad. She thinks she's won. She's about to learn the difference between thinking and knowing, Arthur growled. He didn't reach for the doorbell. He didn't use the intercom. He turned to his SUV and pulled out a heavy, professional-grade breaching ram, a tool from his days consulting for high-security firms. Dad, wait! I started, but I was smiling. Boom! The first hit cracked the mahogany frame. Boom! The second hit splintered the wood around the deadbolt. With a final, violent kick, the door swung inward, hitting the interior wall with a sound like a thunderclap. The transition was jarring. We stepped from the chaotic, freezing dark into a silent, lavender-scented hallway. Victoria was standing by the fireplace, her wineglass shattered on the floor. Brianna was behind her, trembling so hard her teeth were clicking. Arthur, have you lost your mind? Victoria shrieked, her face pale. This is breaking and entering. I'm calling the police. They can Call them, Victoria. Please, my father said, stepping into the light, his wet boots staining the $20,000 rug. In fact, I've already called Sheriff Miller. He's 2 minutes out. But before he gets here, let's talk about the $18,400 you claim Morgan stole. She did steal it, Brianna yelled, her voice hitting a shrill, desperate note. The IP address. Shut up, Brianna, I snapped, stepping forward, shedding the coat to reveal my bruised face. The adults are talking. Or did you think I wouldn't notice the Chanel official confirmation email in your trash folder this morning? Brianna's eyes went wide. She looked at Victoria, then back at me. You went through my things? I didn't have to, I said, a predatory grin spreading across my face. You left your iPad unlocked on the kitchen counter while you were busy crying to Mom. I didn't just see the transfer. I saw the group chat where you called me a loser and joked about me freezing to death. Victoria stepped forward, trying to regain her footing. That proves nothing. A group chat is just girl talk. The money is gone, Arthur. Morgan is a thief. Is she? Arthur held up a sleek black tablet. Because I just ran a trace on the crypto wallet that received the funds. It's registered to a Lux Life resale account. An account linked to your friend's address, Brianna. You didn't just steal the money. You used it to buy a vintage Birkin bag. The silence that followed was suffocating. Victoria looked at Brianna, her expression wavering for the first time. Brianna? Is that true? Mom, he's lying. He's just trying to protect her. Brianna sobbed, but the tears were different now. They were the tears of a cornered animal. I'm not done, I said, stepping closer to Victoria. You threw me out in a blizzard for a lie. You chose a handbag over your daughter. Now let's see how much you love this house, Victoria, because Dad has a little surprise regarding the title. The house is mine, Victoria hissed. It was part of the settlement. Read the fine print, Victoria, Arthur said, his voice dropping to a whisper. The house is held in a protective trust for Morgan. You are merely a tenant at will, provided you maintain a safe environment for the beneficiary. By locking her out in a life-threatening storm. I finished his sentence, my eyes locked on hers. You just evicted yourself. The air in the foyer was thick with the scent of ozone from the shattered electronic lock and the metallic tang of Victoria's fading arrogance. She stood paralyzed, her gaze darting between the splintered remains of her front door and the cold, unyielding expression on my father's face. A tenant at will? Victoria finally choked out, a frantic, hysterical laugh bubbling in her throat. Arthur, you're bluffing. I've lived here for 5 years. I decorated every inch of this place. You can't just walk in here with a battering ram and tell me I'm evicted. I don't bluff, Victoria. I litigate, my father replied. He reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out a gold-stamped folder. Section 4, Paragraph B of the Morgan St. James Irrevocable Trust. You signed it during the divorce to keep your alimony at 6 figures. It states that your residency is contingent upon the physical and emotional well-being of the primary beneficiary. That's Morgan. I stepped toward the massive 120-inch laser projector screen that occupied the far wall of the living room. Let's show her the well-being she provided tonight, shall we? With a flick of my finger on my dead phone, which I had quickly plugged into a portable power bank, I bypassed the house's local network. I hadn't spent 3 years majoring in computer science just to be outsmarted by a 15-year-old and a socialite. What are you doing? Get away from the theater system, Victoria shouted, lunging toward me. Faking it? I laughed, the sound sharp and devoid of humor. I'm a 4.0 student in cybersecurity, Brianna. You're a girl who thinks password 123 is a high-level security measure. I didn't hack anything. I just stopped you from deleting the cloud backups you were too stupid to realize existed. I swiped the screen again. A new window popped up, a series of text messages from Brianna's phone, magnified so large the letters were the size of dinner plates. 8:45 p.m. Brianna. OMG! It worked. The loser is literally freezing on the porch right now. Mom slapped her so hard I thought her tooth would fall out. ROFL. 8:47 p.m. Bestie, is she still out there? It's a literal blizzard. 8:48 p.m. Brianna, who cares? If she turns into an ice cube, I get the whole inheritance. Genius, right? The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to stop howling for a second. Victoria turned slowly to look at her golden child, the girl she had just defended by assaulting me. "You did this?" Victoria whispered, her voice trembling. "You risked our lifestyle. You risked everything for a handbag? I needed it, Mom!" Brianna broke, her voice morphing from a whimper into a selfish screech. "Everyone at school has the new season collection. You're always talking about appearances, so I gave you one. It's your fault for being so easy to trick." I looked at Victoria, seeing the realization sink in. She had traded her loyal, hardworking daughter for a monster she had created in her own image. "The police are at the gate," my father said, checking his watch. "And the movers I hired are right behind them. Victoria, you have 10 minutes to pack a bag. Brianna, you're coming with me to the station to discuss grand larceny and identity theft. You can't do this." Victoria cried out, grasping at the edge of the marble fireplace. "It's New Year's Eve!" "Actually," I said, checking the time on the giant screen. "It's midnight. Happy New Year, Victoria. Welcome to your new life." 10 minutes, Victoria. The clock is ticking, and I'm not known for my patience," my father said, leaning against the doorframe of the shattered entrance. He looked at his watch with the cold precision of an executioner. Victoria didn't move. She looked like a statue of a fallen queen, her eyes glazed as she stared at the giant screen displaying Brianna's treacherous texts. "Arthur, please, we can talk about this. She's just a child. She didn't know the consequences." "A child?" I stepped forward, the heat of the room finally starting to thaw my frozen limbs, but my heart remained an iceberg. She knew exactly what she was doing when she watched me shivering through that window. She knew the consequences when she let you strike me. She didn't just want the money, Victoria. She wanted me gone. "Morgan, honey." Victoria reached out a hand, her voice shifting into a manipulative maternal coo that made my skin crawl. "I was stressed. I made a mistake, but we're family. But we can fix this quietly. Think of the scandal. Your father's career. Your future." "Don't you dare use my future as a bargaining chip," I spat, my voice echoing off the high ceilings. "You burned that bridge when you locked the gate. You want to talk about fixing things quietly?" "No. I want it loud. I want the whole of Lakeshore Drive to see you escorted out of here in the middle of a blizzard." Outside, the blue and red lights of the sheriff's cruisers began to bounce off the snow-covered walls of the foyer. The high-pitched wail of the sirens grew louder, signaling the end of the debate. Brianna suddenly bolted. She didn't run for the door. She ran toward the back stairs, her silk pajamas fluttering behind her. "I'm not going to jail. You can't make me." "Morgan, stay here," my father commanded, but I was already moving. I caught up to her at the base of the spiral staircase. I grabbed her by the arm, the same way Victoria had grabbed me, and swung her around. Brianna tried to claw at my face. Her manicured nails aimed for my eyes, but I was faster. I grabbed both her wrists and pinned them against the cold iron railing. "Let go of me, you freak!" she screamed, her face contorted in an ugly mask of rage. "The freak is the only one who knows the recovery key for the offshore account," I whispered, leaning in close so only she could hear. "You think you're so smart, Brianna? You transferred the money to a wallet you can't even access anymore. I intercepted the encryption. That $18,400? It's already back in the trust. You stole nothing but a one-way ticket to a juvenile detention center." Her eyes widened in genuine terror. The realization that her brilliant plan had yielded zero profit was the final blow. Her knees buckled, and she slid down the railing sobbing, this time for real. The front door, or what was left of it, swung wide. Sheriff Miller, a man who had known my father for decades, stepped in, shaking the snow off his hat. He took one look at the splintered wood, the bruised side of my face, and the chaotic scene in the living room. "Arthur?" The sheriff nodded. "I got your call, and the digital file you sent over." "Sheriff, thank God!" Victoria cried, rushing toward him. "My ex-husband just broke into my home. He's threatening us. Look at the door!" Sheriff Miller didn't even look at her. He looked at me. "Morgan, are you okay?" "I've been better, Sheriff," I said, walking back into the foyer, my head held high. "I'd like to press charges, assault, battery, and unlawful eviction against Victoria. And I have the full forensic evidence for the identity theft and grand larceny committed by Brianna." Victoria gasped, clutching her throat.
"You're arresting your own mother?"
"I'm arresting a tenant who assaulted the owner of the house," I corrected her. "And as for Brianna, she's just a thief who got caught."
"Sheriff,"
my father intervened, his voice calm and legalistic.
"the trust documents are on the table. Victoria has been served her eviction notice via the violation of the Safe Harbor Clause. She has no legal right to remain on these premises."
I watched as Victoria's world finally imploded. She grabbed a random coat from the closet, her hands shaking. "This isn't over, Morgan," she hissed. "You're right," I said, crossing my arms as the sheriff led a sobbing Brianna toward the cruiser. "It's just the beginning of your consequences." The silence that followed the sheriff's departure was heavier than the blizzard outside. The penthouse, once a fortress of Victoria's vanity, now felt like a hollowed-out shell. My father stood by the shattered door, his silhouette framed by the flashing blue lights reflecting off the snow, while I stood in the center of the living room, staring at the spot where Victoria had stood just moments ago.
"You okay, Morgan?"
my father asked, his voice losing its courtroom edge and softening into something paternal. "I'm more than okay, Dad," I said, though my hands were still trembling slightly. Not from cold, but from the sheer rush of adrenaline. I walked over to the bar and poured myself a glass of sparkling water, my throat parched from the shouting. "I've spent 5 years waiting for the mask to slip. I just didn't think she'd throw me to the wolves so easily."
"She didn't think the wolf would have teeth,"
Arthur said with a grim smile. Suddenly, the house's internal intercom buzzed. It was the concierge from the lobby downstairs. I tapped the screen on the wall.
"Yes?"
"Ms. Morgan, Mrs. Victoria's downstairs. She's demanding the valet bring her car around, but her accounts are flagged, and she's making a scene with the police officers." "Let her make a scene," I said, my voice cold as ice. "And inform the valet that the Mercedes is registered under the family trust. Since she is no longer a resident or a trustee, she has no right to the vehicle. She can take a taxi, or she can walk." I cut the connection before the concierge could respond. I turned to see my father watching me with a mix of pride and concern. "You're not holding back, are you?" "Why should I?" I challenged, slamming my glass down on the marble counter. "She hit me, Dad. She looked at me standing in a life-threatening storm, and she smiled. If the roles were reversed, she'd have me in a cell without a second thought. I'm just playing by the rules she created." I walked back to the giant projector screen. Brianna's confession was still paused on the frame where she looked most guilty. I began typing on my laptop, my fingers flying across the keys with surgical precision.
"What are you doing now?"
my father asked, walking over to stand behind me. "Securing the perimeter, digitally," I replied. "I'm changing the encryption on every server, every smart lock, and every bank account associated with this address."
I'm also sending the full video file of the assault and the confession to the university board. Arthur's face darkened, his jaw tightening until the muscles jumped. I take it back. It's not overkill. Do what you have to do.
I'm going to do more than that, I said, hitting send on the evidence files. I'm going to make sure that by tomorrow morning, the only thing Victoria and Brianna have left is each other's company in a cheap motel room. They wanted to see me freeze. Now they can see what it's like to be left out in the cold by the world they tried so hard to impress. The doorbell rang again. Not a smash this time, but a polite, rhythmic chime. I checked the camera. It was the movers Arthur had hired, standing in the hallway with crates and packing tape.
Good, I said, standing up and pulling the trench coat tighter around me. Tell them to start with Victoria's closet. I want every designer bag, every piece of jewelry, and every silk dress out of this house and into a storage unit by dawn. If it's not hers, it stays. If it is hers, I want it gone. And where are you going? My father asked.
To my room, I said, heading for the stairs. I'm going to take a hot shower, and then I'm going to sleep in a house that finally belongs to me. Tomorrow, the real work begins. I didn't look back. I climbed the stairs, each step feeling lighter than the last. The empire of lies had fallen, and I was the only one left standing in the ruins.
Don't let anyone trample on you, even family. When life hits you with injustice, stop crying and start fighting back with a cool head. Your backbone is your best defense. Thanks for listening. Hit like, drop a comment, and follow for more intense stories. See you in the next one.